It is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. I will call this meeting of the Miami Township, Montgomery County Board of Trustees to order. If everybody could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Culp?
Here.
We have excused Mr. Posey. He is at the fly-in, meeting our elected officials in D.C. We thank him for his service. We have no military casualties. Chief Stegelmeyer, first responders.
Good evening, Board. The following is the first responder casualty list for the period of September 8th through September 21st, 2021. Officer Blaze Madrid Evans, Independence Police Department, Missouri. End of watch September 15th, 2021. Lieutenant John Stewart, Lake City Police Department, South Carolina. End of watch September 17th, 2021.
Thank you. If everyone could please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We have a guest with a presentation, Mr. Aaron Prim from the Dayton Mediation Center for Homeless and the Prevention Program.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you taking time today, and also residents having us out today. Just a little bit about us at the City of Dayton, the Dayton Mediation Center. I was just thinking to myself before the meeting, we might be the most interesting organization that no one's ever heard about. Whenever you run into people and we talk about the Dayton Mediation Center, no one has ever heard of us or knows what we do. At the end of the day, we are a mediation center, so we're neutral third party to support people in talking about things. And so whenever an individual party, they need to have a conversation, oftentimes a difficult one, then they can come to us free of charge for all those that live within the city. In my particular program I'm going to be talking about tonight throughout the county, they can have these conversations with us, whether it's together in a group or if it's individually. Now, because mediation is a voluntary process, not all parties have to come together, but certainly if they're willing to do so, we can bring them together. There are certainly enough times where people want to talk individually, and this happens enough times as well, and so they can do that. And I support them with the thoughts that they're having about whatever circumstances they're talking about. And so these mediations or these conversations can occur around anywhere where conflict exists. And inside the folder that I gave to Mr. Hess, and you'll be able to see at some point, certainly talks about the myriad of types of things that we address as far as conflict. And you'll see inside of our brochure, it talks about property management and tenants, which is what I take care of personally, family decisions, employment, whether it's involved with the court-related or not, small claims court, eviction court, things through the Montgomery County Municipal Court like parenting time, all kinds of things. Wherever there's conflict, we're able to address those issues. And so I brought along some rack cards also that talk specifically about the programming that I'm involved in, which is the homelessness prevention, landlord tenant programming, where I support property management, property owners, and residents, and whatever those conversations they need to have. This is oftentimes people think, oh, it's just for residents. Not the case at all. As neutral third parties, we're there for both property owners as well as residents in order to support them in having whatever conversations they need to have with each other. And then certainly, as I said before, if that's not an interest that they want to talk to the other party, they can talk to me about whatever the situation is, and I can support them in figuring out, well, what are you going to do at this point? I've gone to court quite a bit. I'm not an attorney or a lawyer, but over the past 7 years, I've mediated quite a bit in and out of the court system. Dayton Municipal. Now we've got I want to say alliances, but we are now working alongside of the Vandalia Municipal Court, also with the Kettering Municipal Court and the Montgomery County Municipal Court, which is distributing our materials as well to all those who have received an eviction notice so they can find out about our programming. And so when individuals call me, we're able to talk through things, talk about all the needs that they may have, if it's about rental assistance, all of these things. I happen to know about these things from, as I said, 7 years or so. I've been working with this particular population, with individuals, and so I can let them know what is available to them, perhaps, what is going on within the court system, some thoughts that they might not have had about certain things. Certainly at no point am I ever giving any legal advice. I'm definitely not a lawyer or attorney, but I've seen a couple things, and I can talk about those items. So certainly, all of your residents, the programming that we have is free to all of them. So certainly at any point, if they have any questions or thoughts about whatever it is, as a property owner, as a resident, they certainly can give me a call. It's very interesting, the amount of information that is not necessarily known, but you would think that in the news quite often you hear about things, but certainly at the same time there's enough things that people could have a little more insight about, and that's one of my roles, is to give more information about the situations in and around homelessness prevention, landlords and tenants. Are there any questions I could answer?
Go ahead. Thank you for coming in. I think this is an incredible service, and I appreciate you coming in because I'm guilty. I'm one of those ones who had never heard of you, but I'm very glad to have heard of you now. Are you a independent nonprofit, or are you a form of government?
So yes, this is a great question, Mr. Morris. We are the city of Dayton. So we are a very small group of individuals. There's about 4 of us full-time. Probably, I believe we're about to hire another person, 5 people full-time. We also have about 7 or 8 contractors. So about 13 of us or so that work in the department. So it's very small. Oftentimes, most people don't know about us, even within the city. And so that's why we're out, making sure that we get to all the communities. Because before we got this grant through the county, we were just city. We just worked within the city, of course. But now our services are able to be provided to all the residents within the county. So we wanted to make sure that we came to all the municipalities to let them know that we exist, number one, and that there certainly are services that we can provide to all the residents, that they can call us anytime, or they can be referred to us to have conversations about anything.
Any questions, Don?
Yeah. So, hey, did you mention the Miamisburg Municipal Court? Have you spoke with Judge Reddick or not?
So we have not spoken to Miamisburg Municipal Court yet.
Okay.
But that is still in the queue
Okay.
of courts to go to. I think the only 2 courts that we don't have literal information going out with the eviction notices is Miamisburg Municipal Court at this point, and I believe Oakwood. But other than that, I think that we've got them covered. And this is all new to this year.
Okay. So are you guys connected with the Common Pleas Court effort to provide mediators? I know John Hollingsworth and Arvin Miller are a couple of them. I mean, when you're talking about legal help, they're the mediators down there. Do you?
No, that's a great question as well. Mr. Culp is talking about, I hope everyone knows, and if you don't, the Montgomery County Pleas Court, they have another set of mediators that they utilize, though that is not us. That is central to their organization.
Okay.
Also, that's central to their organization, so we don't necessarily work with them, but I've been there. They do good work.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, thank you for coming in. I'm going to recommend the administration work with your office and highlight these services in one of our newsletters. Let the community know these services are available. I've received a number of calls and emails recently about, since the eviction moratorium has been lifted, people are finding themselves in a position where they've been avoiding conflict for a long time. They're going to have a conflict very soon, and they're scared about it. So to have these kind of services to help them walk through that process before it's too late is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm glad to hear that you're expanding out into the entire county. So thank you for coming in.
All right, well, thank you for having me. And also, too, if you happen to have any availability for your website, if you have one, I'm sure you do, it'd be great to be there as well if we could. That's an additional ask. But
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, no, thank you. You all have a great evening.
All right, seeing no other guests or presentations, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Hess, we have item 71.
yes, sir, it's a resolution to authorize the administrator to enter into a right-of-way agreement with Point Broadband. There's a memo that accompanies it, and I'll just kind of hit the highlights of that memo. They first contacted MVCC cities, Washington Township and us to provide a fiber-based internet service only. So it's unlike Spectrum and AT&T that also provides the TV service. They're looking for some right-of-way assistance to be able to put cabling in. They're also talking about doing micro trenching in some areas. This is a non-exclusive agreement, so anybody else that wants to provide this service can come into the township. But for assisting them in getting the right-of-way permits in the areas, roads that we can do, they're willing to compensate us with a 15-year agreement and 2 5-year agreements after that. And depending on how many of our residents subscribe to their service, we would be compensated on that number. This has been reviewed by both Dan and also our law director. Neither one have any issues with it. I'm open to any questions you may have that's not addressed in the memo.
Did they give any indication on their plan for expanding? Did they have anything that we can, if this is approved, that we could publish to say these are the neighborhoods and their rollout plan, or it's too early for that?
Well, they have a map which is mostly the eastern part and southern part of the township, but trying to show just Miami Township, it's commingled with Washington Township, Moraine, and so we're working on just getting the Miami Township aspect of it. The area that they will be looking at later on are more the rural areas, because they have some specifications on how many houses in a linear mile area to make it profitable for them.
Very good. All right, Mr. Chief Stegelmeyer, you have 2 liquor permits.
Yes, I do. Good evening again, Board. The first liquor permit that we have is a transfer of a D5 and a D6 license. All the information's been provided for you in your packet. This is the Homewood Suites. All they did in this particular instance is they transferred LLCs that are running Homewood Suites. So therefore, they have to also transfer the liquor license. We, again, find no reason to contest this permit. The second one we have is a brand-new permit to C1, which is for the carry-out of beer only in sealed containers. And this is for a new one for HY Smokes, doing business as Miamisburg Smoke Shop on Springboro Pike. We find no reason to contest this application either, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Does not appear to be any. We will move and open the public comment period. If there's anybody who has come to the meeting and wants to come forward and make a comment to the Board of Trustees, now would be the time. Come forward, state your name for the record and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Matthew Turton, 6600 Jamaica Road, Miami Township, on the other side of the river. It's been a couple years since I've been here at the board, but I just wanted to address the board and keep them abreast of the continued situation that's going on over at the Stony Hill Convention Center in our neighborhood. That is disturbing the agricultural milieu of the community. And I won't say every weekend, but at least a couple weekends a year, or I'm sorry, a couple weekends a month, we have loud music above the decibels that is palatable for our ears inside of our bedrooms. From a distance of approximately 1,500 feet. The visual light displays that are going on continuously with the disco lights, etc., are disturbing at that distance as well. The continued or intermittent fireworks violations that occur at the residence by any individuals who hire someone to let off fireworks for their event at the convention center obviously disturbs our horses. And then the aftermath of the smoke and sulfur smells that come from those are in our property and hit us as individuals and as our animals or livestock. So it's just been a continuous burden on our family. I've stated that to the administration here in the past. I wanted to bring that up again, that it is continuing. Roughly a couple years ago, I believe that the owner of the event center stated that they would potentially put up a barrier that, to separate our 509 contiguous feet. That is a noxious weed area that is probably in violation of township code, that comes and blows into our horse fields that we take great pride in and try to keep our nutrition up for our animals. But the weeds are there, and that's the barrier, maybe a 3-foot berm of dirt, but then 6 feet of thistle and items. That's never been done. We would like peace and quiet. We are very tired of the continued interruption to our community. I'm the only one who's here. I'm the only one who's affected every single weekend or every other weekend. Every Friday and Saturday, I have music and lights in my backyard. I know we have 1,000 feet roughly between the properties, but with no barriers, it is not non-inhibited, and it is obnoxious, to say the least. We had the wedding march very clearly videotaped last weekend at a wedding. Weekend before, we asked if we could have the music turned down, and I think the decibels actually increased, and I know we don't have a noise ordinance in agricultural areas. It's just continuing, and it's a detriment to the environment of our rural area over there. Why I purchased the 26 acres, why I moved my family out there. We moved there in 2003, or purchased in 2003 and built, and then this property was developed into the event center after that, which is just a shame to our peace and quiet. Continued public nuisance. If there were 1,000 people here and bothered, maybe they'd all be here. But I'm the one with my wife, my daughter, and our animals. So.
Thank you for bringing this back to our attention. I think we have an update on where this stands.
Yes, sir. So just as a reminder of the township's most recent action, the township filed for injunctive relief, filed an injunction in November of 2019. Since November of 2019, we have been going through the court process. We are now through the discovery phase. Depositions have been had. Case materials have been submitted. So at this point, the next step after discussion with our law director is that we will be filing by the end of this month a motion for summary judgment with the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas. Should the motion be granted, the case would not go to trial, and the judge would issue a ruling at that time. If the motion were not granted, the case would go to trial, and we would have a scheduled trial at that time. So at this point, again, we are through discovery. We are preparing a motion for the court and waiting on return judgment from the Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you. Mr. Turton, I just want to thank you for your persistence, both in insisting on your rights to stay and to live in our township. I think you're a stronger man than most in what you've endured for the amount of time that you've endured it. I also like to thank you for your persistence in coming back to the trustees and making sure that we're staying on top of this. This is an instance where, in my personal opinion, government and courts work far too slow. And, we wish the government would work faster. In some cases, the government has worked too fast in some areas for some people. And this is a case where I think, I can't speak for everybody here, but this is a case where we wish we could have gotten something done far faster, but we have not given up on you, and we appreciate that you are not giving up on us. We're going to continue our persistence because the resident that you've referred to as a convention center or event center, whatever he wants to call it, believes he has the rights to do what he's doing, and he is trying to protect those rights in court. you and the township disagree, and we do not believe he has the rights to do what he's doing there, and we are doing everything in our ability to share in the responsibility in getting that change. So again, thank you for staying persistent with us. We're doing what we can.
Yeah, I want to stay. I mean, we built our house there to have our grandkids and, live there. And the individuals who come in every weekend don't know me. They're arbitrary individuals from various parts of the state of Ohio, potentially, and come in and don't know anything about the facility. All they do is rent it and come in, and they're gone the next Monday.
Right.
They're gone on Sunday by 10, unless there's another party. And so they're in and out, and they don't know the ramifications of their actions on the other individuals who are contiguous to the property. And so we're sitting there, agricultural as well, and suffering from the actions of the individuals there.
Well, that's a very interesting part of your comments talking about, fireworks. I was in Columbus a month or two ago, and they're arguing back and forth on the potential opening up of Ohio's fireworks law, and some people came in commenting about the impact of their animals in urban areas. I can only imagine the stress and strain on a rural area, and you mentioned your horses and other animals there. So we are definitely with you on this. So thank you for coming in.
We've continuously called the police department to come out, and I hate to do that, to stress the facilities and their operations, all due respect, but to get documentation of the continued actions, I guess we continue to do that. But
Yes, as you should.
any questions from any members of the board?
Thank you
I
so
thank
much.
you for your persistence as well.
Thank you.
So whose court is this in?
Court of Common Pleas.
Yeah, but
Montgomery
who-
County.
Do you know who the judge is?
Oh, it's Judge Skelton.
Okay. And what do we do right now when we're called out?
Which more or less a documentation, unless there's others, some other violation that we can enforce, but right now it's strictly documentation.
I assume do these people come and go during the weekend? Do they leave immediately after a party? What's the status? Are they drinking alcohol out there? Are they allowed to serve alcohol out there?
If it's a private property that's brought in, if they're not providing it or getting a sale from it, yes, they can. This is so different than you going to a party and taking your own liquor to somebody's party, so to speak. So.
And that's what they're doing.
Liquor violation
Okay.
unless the house provided it and charging for it, then they need a liquor license for that.
Why don't we set up a checkpoint once in a while when we know there's a party out there? Just run them through it.
We can look into that, and we can give the county OVI task force for sure to look into that.
Okay. Yeah, we're not happy about this. It's been something I think everyone's been working on. It's just a long process. Also, private entities reach out to me to ask me about that property being sold to a future concessionaire, if I can put it that way. And I told them there's no way that property is zoned for that. That's not going to happen. So we're pushing back every time we hear about it. So any other ideas, I'd like to hear them.
All right. Anyone else with the public comment? We will close the public comment period, move to consideration of resolutions and motions. I will make a motion to approve Resolution 71-2021, a resolution to authorize the Miami Township Administrator to enter into a right-of-way agreement with Point Broadband of Ohio, LLC.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morse,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I will make a motion to approve the liquor permit for Channel Point Hospitality, LLC, doing business as Homewood Suites, Miamisburg. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morse,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor permit for HY Smokes, DBA Miamisburg Smoke Shop. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morse?
Aye.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
We have no public hearings. Are there any department heads wishing to make any comments?
Mr. Morris, I just want to add that on the Dayton Mediation Center, when I was over at the PD, we used them several times for neighbor disputes and found them to be very helpful on mediating the issues between the two neighbors.
Anyone else? Elected official comments. Mr. Newell,
I have none.
Mr. Culp.
I have none.
I would just like to thank this board and the administration for their work and diligence in bringing back our Parks Board. Was a press release this week. We are openly inviting residents to who would like to be part of the revitalized Parks Board, which will not only look and study investments in our parks, but also what kind of coordinated events we can have with throughout the township. I think that's very exciting. Is there a timeline on when we hope to have this board seated?
Hopefully by the end of the year.
So if you are reading the minutes or watching this on our YouTube channel, please get in your applications. We hope to seat this board sometime in early 2022 and start looking at events. We have no work session or no executive session. I will adjourn our meeting at 6:26. Thank you all for coming.